Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with me, DJ Q Macro, back again for another episode. This is episode or part 2 of probably a 3-part series. So welcome, say hi in the chat if you're around. I've just pasted in the URL to the latest SAP Developer News, 11th of May. Came out yesterday. We do it every week, as you know. So we've got, always all the news fit to print, as they say. So we're going to get going shortly. Am I okay? I think I am. Yeah, excellent connection. Concurrent viewers. Yes, we've got some viewers. Hello, Javier. Good morning to you, Javier. Let me go and switch to the main scene. Because why not? So there's the developer news. I've got my coffee. How are you all this morning? Are you all looking forward to some more back to basics? Let me know. So the general idea is that we're going to continue. This is the news, by the way. We're going to continue with where we left off last week. So last week we started to have a look through this little repo that I'd originally created in the form of scribbled notes in my notepad, but then started to write down the markdown, and the markdown became something bigger, as I mentioned. And I've been working to improve it as well. So I did some commits this morning, and I went through it yesterday as well, and just made some minor improvements. So hopefully this will become a resource that we can use together. And we're learning together. Joe Dell, greetings. Cheers to part 2. So what I was thinking is that if we have a look at the, let's look at the guide. Go to the guide DP. Down here we've got, there's quite a few. There are 17 steps. And at the end of last week, we got to step 7, add a basic relationship with a 2-1 managed association at the persistence layer. AP, good morning, and good morning to you, Helmut in Braunschweig. I think you used to say Braunschweig, didn't you? I like the different names for different things. It just makes me feel very international. In fact, I'm flying to a location next week for a code jam. We call it Milan. I suppose the locals call it Milano, and in Germany they call it Mailand. So there we go. It's pretty cool. I've got my coffee. I've got a nice chocolate biscuit, which I'll have. So we got to step 7. Now I've deleted everything, just so we can try, if anybody wants to do it. V says, good morning to you in Thailand and welcome. Good morning. Nice to have you all. I thought we could try this thing that I did. Let's go to step 7 and let's clone the repo, but jump straight to this branch. So if you want to try this at home, as it were, we'll go to the first part, clone the repo, right? So we'll say git clone, we'll clone that repo and open it in VS Code. In fact, let's open it in VS Code. Let's do everything in VS Code. Okay, there we go. So there's VS Code opening. Let's put VS Code on my display number 2. There we go, we've got those 2 things there. And let's see what happens. Let's make it one bigger. Let's let VS Code open, activating extensions. And then we'll try and use the branch thing that I did, so we can jump straight to exercise step 7. Reopen in container. There we go, dev container. And thanks to your comments last week and our observations, HP said I don't need git in the where is it? In the dev container Dockerfile, I've now removed git from the apt-get install, and I properly put bat in there now as well. Okay, so we've got all the things we need, and also remember, remember that little weird thing last week where we generated an empty service and there was no actual entity container element in the generated EDMX. Now, I'm still investigating that. There's some really interesting conversations internally at SAP with folks whose brains are far bigger than mine. So I want to carry on investigating why that was, and that was with the version of CDS-DK 6.8.1, I think it was, and that's why here I've pinned it to 6.5 for now. Still a decent version. So that's that. Okay, so we've got that. Why did that take so long to open up? I don't know. We've got that, but let me move now to there. Okay, now we've got our Explorer and git branch remote verbose. Let's have a look. So we've got all these branches. So theoretically, we can jump straight to where we left off, which I'm pretty sure it was 7, wasn't it? Let me go to SAP Devs. Let me go here. Where is it? View full playlist. Part 1. Stop the autoplay. And where was it? Show more. Yes, step 7. That's right. We did step 7. Okay, perfect. Good morning, Chris, Mr. Peep. And welcome. Okay, so I'm right. Okay, so what I was saying before, when Jodelle joined, cheers to part 2, I was saying, well, or I was thinking, there are 17 steps. Even if, we might be able to get all the way from step 7 to step 17, but that would be rushing it. And I think, again, I've had conversations with various people, and I think it's a better idea for us to go through it slower and more surely, and look at all the things, stare at all the things. Tiago, good morning. Tiago, good morning to you. So we won't try to get to step 17 today. Instead, we'll go through and we'll see how far as we get. Okay, so I want you to be super observant. Ask all the questions. I may not have all the answers, but we can maybe work it out ourselves. So. Where are we? Yeah, if I say git or bit git, check out, and then which one? We'll go to 7. Add a basic relationship with a 2-1 managed association. Let's do that. Okay, so now theoretically we should have 7 was. Let's go to 7 there now. There. Oh, that's right. Yes. So we should have a schema where we've got a basic association, a basic relationship at the persistence layer. And that's it. That's it. Okay, yes. Oh no, did we add the data? No, we didn't add the data, did we? Did we not add the data? Remind me, did we add the data? We'll start with 8. Now, if we now have a look, then we've got the schema, which now looks like that. Oh, there was what's going on there? And we also had the main. We can see an extend. Okay, extend is not there. Okay, fine. That must have been when I was sort of hacking around with it last week in VS Code's memory. I don't know. So we've got. Does that make sense so far? We've got our simple pair of entities at the persistence layer, and we've just in step 7 added this association. Okay, it's a 2-1 association, so that a book has an association to one author. Okay, and we've added both entities, we've exposed them in the service, and that's right, yeah, we want to monitor them, don't we? So let's say util mon EDMX. Let's move that up a bit as well. I might have to make this font 1 smaller eventually, but let's just see how we get on for this. Mon SQL, and also, of course, we'll CDS watch that. Okay, so we can move that there a bit, can't we? To make the EDMX a little bit nicer to see. So far, so good. So we've added the persistence. And what we did was we had a look at the books entity set, okay, and we can see now the author ID, the author ID field, the element is there because of this managed to-one association. And let's go back again. Where are we? Yeah, there we go. That. And we know where that's from, right? We know where the author ID has come from. It's come from the fact that we've added this association, this managed association, and it's generated an author ID property. And we can sort of see here as well, right? In the EDMX, we can see that the entity set for books now has this navigation property binding element that basically says the path is author, obviously relating to that element there, and the target, it goes to authors, right? Fine. What hopefully explains this generated foreign key field, this foreign key element that's been put in there for us by CAP, Managed Association, it does all heavy lifting for us, is this, well, within the navigation property, right? In fact, why don't we have a look at it, because we know localhost, lolcat host, localhost 4004, we can see in the metadata there, let's look at that instead, say exactly the same thing. In this entity set, we've got the path to author, and then in the actual entity type that describes this entity set name books, as in this is an entity set of entities of type books, we've got all that stuff there, and the most important thing is this one and this one. So we can see that we've got a navigation property going to author, and it goes to the author's entity type. Only one, not a collection. Remember, I think, did we see collection last week? I can't remember. And the referential constraint basically says the author ID element has to match in the referenced property, as in it has to match the property in the referenced target entity type, the ID. So basically, the value of author ID in books there has to match the value of the ID in the target, which is authors, right? I mean, it's harder to describe and to sort of speak out than actually to see and understand right in our heads. Okay, so far so good. Are we all together? Are we ready to go? We'll add some data. Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. If we have a look here, add the author ID field to the Books CSV data, because when we have a look here, we can see, let's go back here. If we look at the books, we can see that the author ID is null. And the author ID is null is because if we have a look in bookshop books there, let's put that on the sort of the left-hand side. Let's get rid of that as well. And also let's bring in authors, bookshop authors. Okay, let's put that. Let's have them all sort of in vertical columns there. There we go. Those are smaller, so we can move those across there, and they're less important as well, I suppose. There. Does that make sense so far? Okay. Now, let's open up yet another terminal, and it tells us, I've written, that we can use a little utility. We'll maybe have a look at the utility to go and get some CSV data. The books, what we want is the author ID. So we want to associate the author, the ID of the author, with the book record. Now, all I've done here is csvgetdata. Let's bring that in. In fact, let's make that a bit bigger for a second. All that is doing is going to the GitHub repo, the SAP samples cloud cap samples, the specific branch main there. It's going to the bookshop DB data directory and just grabbing the data. Okay, it does a curl. Now I'm using this fantastic, has anybody played around with Miller, this fantastic utility called Miller? So let's just do it. MLR, it's basically like this Swiss Army chainsaw for manipulating CSV, right? You know, I love JQ for manipulating JSON. Think of Miller as a similar tool for managing and manipulating CSV. So if I say utils get CSV get data, clear the screen, it says specify entity books. So I'll say books, and that will go and make a curl request to the bookshop's data in the SAP Samples Cloud cap Cloud Samples repo, grab the data, and there it is. But we only want ID, title, and ID and title first of all, which is exactly the same as DB data bookshop books. But what we want is author ID as well, right? So this is just like a list of the fields that we want, and that'll give us the author ID field header in the CSV, author underscore ID, and that'll give us the values 101, 107, 150, 150, because that's the same author for the Raven and Eleonora, and 170. So we can now put that into DB data bookshop books.csv. And there we can see, actually, we can see that now in our bookshops, put that there again, bookshop books.csv, we now have the extra column, okay? Quote of the day, Swiss Army chainsaw. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I didn't make that up. I've read that somewhere. I mean, I thought that was quite a common phrase. But yes, thank you for observing that, Chris. So, really nice. If you've not looked at Miller, have a look. And also, that little script came about. Let's just show you on here, so it might be easier. That little script came about because basically I was being lazy. I couldn't be bothered typing things in. So all I'm doing is curling that resource from the GitHub repo and using Miller to chop and change and, you know, grab the CSV columns that I want. Okay, that's all. Once again, says Jodelle, I've seen some magic tricks from our great magician. Oh, well, thank you very much. What particular magic trick was that? Was it just the fact that, well, as the great Larry Wall said, you know, the three most important attributes of a good programmer, to which I aspire, are laziness, impatience, and hubris. And there we go, laziness in action. Write a little script to do something that you don't want to do yourself. So there we go. Okay, so we've got that. We can, you know, we can sort of close that now. We can see what's in there. Note that there are no foreign key fields at all or values in authors, okay? Just in the books. So far, so good. Right, okay, so let's get back to here. We've got that. So when we've where are we? When we've put those extra data in, things restart. That restarted, of course, but nothing else happens apart from the fact that we now get in our books entity set, we get the values. Obviously, right? You know, this is so simple, but it's, you know, I think it's really important to go slow through this, right? Cheers to being lazy programmer. Yes, exactly. Okay, so that's fine. But also, now that we have this foreign key relationship created for us by CAP through the managed association that we have defined here, certainly the persistence layer, we can now use this navigation property, okay, as it says here, right? This is enough to satisfy and support the basic relationship we now have between books and authors. So if we go here, in fact, if we have a look at the metadata, we can see, again, let's just do it, you know, manually as it were. We can see in the books entity type, we've got a key. Oh, I always think that collapses, but it's just, yeah, great. We've got an ID, and we've got a title, and we've got a navigation property called author. So let's grab that, go up to there, go back and say books, like that, and then we can say question mark, which will introduce the query string part of the URL, and we'll use an OData system query option $expand equals paste author. Okay. Oh, I've timed that badly. I put my washing machine on. I didn't want the washing machine to be going. It's just there to be going while I'm on the live stream because it's quite loud. You know? So I thought, I put a timer on delayed start, which I don't do very often. But obviously I messed it up and it's just started. Oh well. Oh, of course, yeah. I wanted to. Oh yeah. Anyway, what an idiot. Can you let me know if you can hear? Oh, by the way, if you're wondering why last week you could hear my voice, but it was a little bit echoey, a little bit sort of like I was in a big room. It's because I forgot to bring round my microphone. It was right over there. So now, hopefully, that my voice should be a little bit clearer and a little bit nearer to your ears. So Lewis, good morning and hello. Lewis says, great exercise, DJ. Doing a good manipulation of the RESTful service improved the performance of the application. Always, always. Now, okay, so expand equals author. Why is it author lowercase singular? Because, let's go back to here. There, navigation property name equals author. That is the name of the navigation property. It's not authors with a capital A and plural. It's not the name of the entity. It's the navigation property that we're specifying here. Okay, so if we press enter, bang, now we get that relationship going from books to authors. A book going to one author. Note here, really interestingly, this thing, what is that? That's an object, right? That's an object. It's not an array. Okay, so even looking at it from just a purely JSON representation perspective of the resource that we get in response to this OData query operation, the value of the author element, let's call it element, generic, which is a navigation property, is an object. It's not an array. So it's a one-to-one relationship. When I was going through this, just having a quick look, I did also notice that, this is really cool. It's really nice. But we've got 101 here and 101 here. We've got the author twice. Now, the behavior of the CAP OData server mechanism is a sensible one in that it will always, regardless of whether you ask for the properties in a, for example, $select system query option, it will always give you the key properties, the key fields. So in this case, we know that in the books, the key property is ID. So we always get ID. So we can't sort of avoid that. If we could say select equals name, right? I don't think that's going to make a difference, right? Because we're saying, please give us the name property in the navigated to property. Yeah, exactly the same. If we said select name equals ID, what's going to happen there? We just get the ID, right? So we can sort of use that idea of saying, well, I want to sort of implicitly or explicitly, implicitly not have something by saying not at the expanded navigation property level, but at the level of the entity set that we're dealing with, i.e. books, we can say select equals, so this is not in brackets, it's not related to the expanded, to the navigation property, select equals title, okay? And that should give us, at this level here, it'll give us the ID because the ID is a key property, and it'll give us the title because we've asked for it, but it won't give us the author ID because the author ID isn't a key field, it's a foreign key field that points to something else, right? Does that make sense? So let's see, this might not work. Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. We got rid of implicitly the author underscore. We could say here author ID. There it is. Oh no, it's not. Oh yeah, there it is. There at the top. But if we go back, select title. So we can sort of reduce the data that we want quite nicely in lots of different ways. Of course, this is just scratching the surface of what's possible with OData system query options, as you know. So, Lewis says, JSON response is much better than XML response, simpler and more readable. I do think so too. Yeah, I mean, we've got to remember that where OData came from, which sort of explains why the representations, and by the way, I don't know, I'm deliberately using these words because I'm trying to use the right words, the appropriate words, the HTTP words, and also words relating to representational state transfer, the transfer of state through representations. What are representations? They're, what a resource looks like, the content type, basically. So you have, in OData terminology, you have an OData operation, like a query, which will return an entity set. And that entity set is basically the resource, the sort of the abstract concept. But what we get as the actual thing on our page is the representation of that resource, okay? Representation and resource are related, but they're not the same thing. So in OData v2, for example, where the default representation, for example, as Lewis is saying, was XML, you could ask for $format equals, or using the content negotiation, you could ask for JSON, couldn't you? So it's the same resource, but different representations. You might, in a ridiculous way, you might say, give me some ASCII art representing the books and authors. Give me a GIF. Maybe with the new dawn of generative AI and so on, we could maybe ask some sort of AI to say, give me an AI representation of these books. Who knows? And that could come across same resource, but as a JPEG or a PNG representation. Okay. Anyway, digression. Where was I? So Lewis says JSON response is much better than XML. And I was saying the reason OData v2 and earlier versions of OData had XML as their default representation. Well, actually, can anybody tell me? Let's suspend that. And also somebody, e.g. Chris, just in case nobody puts anything and I forget, remind me in a couple of minutes about that question. Okay, but people, put in the chat why you think that the default representation of OData resources in the past was XML and not JSON. So I'll have a little bite of my biscuit. Now, so there we are. And I think that's fine. That's all we need to do there. We go through here. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we go through here. It's important to know. Lewis, thank you for the confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. It's important to know that while we can do this, right, $expand equals author, can we go the other way? We've got books, and we can go, $expand equals, let's go back to that one there. $expand equals author, right? And we've got authors as an entity set as well. Can we do, $expand equals, well, what would it be? And that's the thing. What would it be? How do we know what word to use it? In our brains, in our human brains, we think, well, we want to go to books, right? Book. Is that a thing? No. Books. Is that a thing? No. Because because in the metadata, let's go here, in the metadata, in the author's entity type, there isn't a navigation property. And the really beautiful thing that we see in this error message, let's look at it massively. Navigation property, books, is not defined in type Z authors. It's telling us exactly why we can't do that. But it's also implicitly telling us, telling me, this is how I interpret it anyway, right? That a $expand, that system query option works on navigation properties. It doesn't work on regular properties. Okay, so we've learned a little bit there. It's reinforced that information about properties versus navigation properties in OData. Okay, a little bit bigger. So, Crane SE2, is that I'm going to say Crane, because the history was idoc, XML, and finally JSON. Oh, that's a really interesting answer. Now, with idoc, I assume you're talking about, that SAP concept. But OData is not an SAP concept. OData, is a larger concept from the much larger general tech ecosphere. And Chris is saying, let me dredge my mental archives. Please do, Chris. Please do. You've got a million things in your mental archives. But I'm going to say, if you look at, in fact, is it there? I can't remember. Yes. OData test service. Is this a... Oh, is that... What version is that? Metadata. Oh, there we go. Let's have a look. If we have a look at products, for example. There we go. Why is that not formatted? But anyway... why is that not formatted? Anyway, doesn't matter. Yes, exactly. So Chris is saying, correctly, idocs were not involved in OData history. OData came from Atom, and the Atom Publishing Protocol, which came from RSS. Okay, I think I've written about this as well. So I'm sure you can find the blog posts. But RSS, I'm sure we all know what RSS is. It's an XML-based format that basically described, a feed, a set of posts, right? So, my blog, qmacro.org, blog there, right? All the different posts here. Notice I'm using the word blog for the whole thing with all the posts and post for an actual individual thing. The correct terminology. Thank you very much. And we have a feed, which is an XML feed. And this XML feed is Atom. Okay, the Atom Publishing Protocol was a read-write protocol that you could create, read, update, and delete individual entries in an Atom feed. Exactly the same way that an RSS feed, right, had individual items. Okay. So, hey, good morning, Antonio. And you can see here, feed has an author, and it's got entries. There's an entry, there's an entry, there's an entry, right? So, RSS still exists. There's all sorts of shenanigans and political shenanigans and some people who were really awkward. Because of that, Atom was formed as an alternative protocol that could be sort of publicly and openly, worked upon. Rather than being sort of owned by an individual. And then we have the Atom Publishing Protocol, which was then a protocol that you could use from, a blog post authoring tool that you could then send information to, add an entry to your feed. Now, if we have a look at this thing here, look, feed, entry. It's the same thing. OData is a direct descendant of Atom in the Atom Publishing Protocol, because OData is a protocol as well as a format, right? And Atom and the Atom Publishing Protocol is a direct descendant of, or direct relation to, RSS. That's why it's XML, because the Atom format, RFC 4237, is it? I don't know. Atom format RFC, not 4237, 4287. That format is an XML-based format. And look at that. It's basic. What we're looking at here is OData, effectively, right? So that's where it's from, right? So Chris Wheely, I love RSS2. So Weezer says RSS2. Chris Wheely, IFRC, RSS. If I remember correctly, RSS, Atom, then Microsoft got all of Atom extended. Yes, Microsoft has done some awesome things, right? Including, for example, the language server protocol, VS Code, and taking Atom and the Atom Publishing Protocol and making OData. Okay, beautiful. Well done, Microsoft. Anyway, but Samarian says, Marianne says, just because of DJ, I always use blog post. I always hear him ranting when I just use blog. Yes, God damn it. I'm trying to let go. I'm trying to let go of this thing, but because what drives me is attention to detail and accuracy, which should be driving us all. We should use the right terminology and not the wrong terminology. So that's why. Anyway, so Chris says, then SAP got hold of Microsoft's interface, now called OData version 2.0, and adapted and extended it and made it a standard interface for the NetWeaver Gateway system. Yes, exactly. Oh, all sorts of wonderful history. And the way that SAP got hold of OData wasn't in a proprietary extend and embrace extend at all. You know, it was to extend it. First of all, SAP folks are on the OData committee, right? There's an OData standards committee. It's a standard, it's an open standard managed by OASIS, and we have folks like Ralph Handel on the committee. Ralph is an SAP person. What was that? Why am I saying that? Because so we have vocabularies, right? So we can extend OData with vocabularies, and there are standard OData vocabularies, and there are SAP specific vocabularies, and you can make up your own vocabularies. In fact, in the latest release of the news, release news, I talked about this in the news item when I recorded it yesterday. Additional OData Annotation Vocabularies. We're completely going off piste here. I hope you don't mind, but there we go. By default, the compiler only generates the OData metadata for the annotations listed in one of the OData vocabularies known to the compiler. But now, with the April 2023 release of CAP, you can add your own vocabularies, right? This is the whole idea that it's an extensible protocol, not in terms of the basic operations that you can do, but in terms of the way that you can describe data, right? So Jodel says, part of the being lazy mindset, adopt industry standard instead of creating a new one. Yes! Hence SAP Gateway using OData v2. Yeah, brilliant. By the way, we've had this before, but we've all seen, have we not? Let's go to the... but did you know that the API Hub, the SAP API Business Hub, is now called the SAP Business Accelerator Hub? Don't know why, but it's called that. But the URL remains the same. If we have a look at S4HANA Cloud and have a look at the APIs and look at OData v2 API, for example, let's look at them all. One we did look at was Business Partner. There we go, Business Partner, A2X. Okay. If we have a look at the configuration details, talking of gateway, right? How many folks have seen that in a gateway URL, right? Classic. And excluding Chris, because I think Chris and I are of the same or similar vintage, so we were around at the time. Does anybody remember, we've had this before, I remember what OPU stands for, and the answer sort of explains a little bit about why SAP created Gateway, SAP NetWeaver Gateway. So Chris says, Atom syndication format, read-only, Atom publishing format, write enabled, Microsoft, yes, exactly. So the syndication format is a format, it's a representation, how to represent feeds and items within entries within that feed in a format, for example, XML. And the Atom publishing protocol is the HTTP-based read, update, create, delete protocol to push and pull resources in the Atom syndication format representation. Perfect. Hey Niels, welcome. We are completely randomly talking about stuff, but that's okay. I hope that's okay. Thank goodness I didn't try and say, yeah, let's get through all of the remaining 10 steps in the thing. Right, where were we? Let's go back here, go back here, don't need that. So we know, okay, yeah, there we go. We don't have a navigation property in our author's entity type to be able to navigate in the reverse direction, right? And I've said that here as well, right? Right, okay, now let's go to step 9. Wow, we've moved a step. By the way, Monday morning thoughts. OData. OData. There we go. This blog post here, I write about OData's origins as well. So you can see, really, OData goes all the way back to 1995, right? Or this is really the proto-history of OData, as in RSS goes back to MCF, which was created, by I think it was Ramanthan Guha at Apple. Okay. Anyway, there's all sorts of information there, so have a look at that, and then see what you think. So right now, in the step 9, what we want to do before we start doing more with managed associations and with building relationships between books and authors, let's just have a look what we've got, right? What we've got at the moment is this single relationship here. This next step is about moving the current 2.1 managed association from the persistence layer to the service layer, i.e. from the persistence layer in the db schema.cds up, as it were, up through the layer, one level, through the layers, one level, to the service layer in the serve directory. Okay. Now, why might we want to do that? Why might we want to do that? Let me know. I'm going to have a bite of the biscuit. I mean, one reason is because we can. But maybe in what circumstance? Let's say we didn't have this. Okay, we've just got that, and that's going to give us an error. We'll discuss the error now, in a minute. But that's better. Tell me why, or in what circumstance, it might make sense for us to not edit the schema.cds and add the relationship there, there, but add it at the service level. I mean, or add it somewhere else. Let's put it that way. Let me know what you think. Put it in the chat. And while you're thinking, let's continue to follow these instructions. By the way, is anybody playing along with this as well? Let me know if the branch jumping has worked okay for you as well. What we're going to do, we're going to move this, where is it? This thing, this line, out of here into a new file. I'm going to create it. You know what? Who am I trying to kid? I hate using file managers like that. I'm just going to create it by saying touch serve extend.cds. There. And now I can say extend.cds in serve. There, that's better. Call me old fashioned, but there we go. So I'm going to move it out of there into here. So Jodel says, I use that approach when the foreign key is calculated in a CDS view. Cool. Yep. I mean, I think generally what Jodel is saying, I mean, not I think, I will declare that generally what Jodel is saying is aligned with what's in my mind, which is when you have inherited, when you've been given a set of definitions, CDS definitions, and you want to build upon those definitions, you want to tread lightly and carefully over what you've inherited. Who's heard of the phrase "keep the core clean"? Right, I have. I'm sure you all have. Right, and it's a similar situation to what we're talking about here. I.e., don't go and change. Don't go and make a repair. Remember that word? I mean, that concept still exists in the ABAP stack, doesn't it? Right? Don't go and start making repairs to SAP delivered code. Now, in this case, this is not SAP delivered code. It's it's definitions that you've inherited, that you've brought in, because it makes it harder to manage for you, but it also makes it harder to keep that code up to date and whatever, right? So it's nicer to tread carefully and do things a little bit differently. As in, do things, just say, oh, I just want to change that thing over there, or I just want to add something to there, or just whatever, right? I have a new blog post series, Keep the Core Clean. Amazing. I'm looking forward to that. So let us know when it's posted, and we'll have a look at it on the live stream. That'd be amazing. So, what the instructions say. Oh yes, that's right. Now, what I'm using for, again, this is what time is it? 8:46. Thank goodness I didn't try and get through all the steps. What I'm using for, where are we? Where are we? There. For this monitor, definitely Jodel, is a little thing called what's it called? Utils mon EDMX. All I'm doing is I'm looking for files called CDS with an extension of CDS, and then using entr to rerun something. Okay, so you basically give entr in standard in some file names, and when those file names change, entr will do that thing, which is to run CDS compile to EDMX serve and pipe that through BAT, which is it's a bit like cat, but it's got colors. Okay, so that's all that is. But because entr is only looking for the files that you've given it, right? It doesn't know about extend because the find's already happened and it's not found extend.cds. So now let's rerun it basically. There. Okay, and we'll do the same sort of thing for here. Right, fine. So now, if I save that, right, those two will rerun, and that will rerun. Now, we're sort of halfway through moving, aren't we? We're halfway through moving this association, this relationship, from the books entity definition at the persistence layer level, the DB schema.cds. We're going to move it across, but I've saved the file there. I've saved it before, right? Saved the file. Now it's behind my head, isn't it? It's behind my head. How can I have it not behind my head? Let's just move that there a minute, right? Which, am I pointing left or right? I don't know. That way or that way? I can never remember. Anyway, I think it might be that way. Anyway, what's the error? BAT is really cool. Yeah, BAT is really cool. Yes, BAT stands for better cat. That reminds me. Yes. Anyway, no, I was going to go on to talk about recursive acronyms like GNU, which stands for GNU's not Unix. But anyway, why are we getting this error? SQLite error. Table bookshop books has no column named author ID. Why are we getting that error? Let me know. And while we're thinking, let's just go and grab this thing. Oh, so it says here, right? Once you've restarted the EDMX and SQL monitors, carry out the following changes. Remove the author element from the books entity in db schema.cds so that the entity definition goes back to looking like this, which we have done there, right? Add the element back in, but this time as part of the following in the new serve extend.cds, okay? So let's do it. Let's type it in manually because we're sort of, you know, going slowly through everything, right? So first of all, where are we? Here. Let's go to the extend.cds using bookshop from, and then we'll bring in DB schema, right? So what we're saying is, we'll, you know, using the things in the bookshop namespace from that file, which go, you know, which is upper layer to DB and schema.cds, and .cds is sort of, you know, implicit. It could be season, you know. So that, again, one of the many beauties of CAP and CDS is that, you know, there are multiple representations of what CDS actually defines, you know, season, CDS, you know, so why be explicit and put an extension on when it might be something else, right? Do the simplest thing that could possibly work. Who said that? We talked about that person. Did we? Did I mention? I think I put it in the show notes. Ward Cunningham, creator of the wiki, amazing person, brain the size of a planet. I met him at the Open Source Convention, OSCON, in 2014. Anyway, Lewis says, oh, in maybe answer to the question, again, which the error is behind my personage now. Why do we get this error? Only you have ID, title, and author, i.e., we've only got ID and title, but in the bookshop books CSV, we've got that. And the auto loader doesn't know what to do with this extra column. And rather than do nothing, rather sensibly, in my humble opinion, it says, look, you're trying to load a field here called author_ID into the bookshop books table, which we can see here from this DDL definition. But there isn't an element, there isn't a field called author ID. Bang! Right? So well spotted, Lewis. And that's because we've removed that. We've removed the manager association. So the recompile has also taken away what it had put in for the manager association, which is the author_ID field for the foreign key that it generated automatically for us to do all the heavy lifting of the associations and the navigation properties and the constraints and everything, all that stuff in the EDMX. So now we're going to have a little play, I think. Oh, no, we'll put that in first, right? We'll put that in. Oh, yeah, no, we don't want to. Yeah, we'll put that in. So we're going to, using bookshop books. So we want to extend bookshop.books with, and now we want to put that in author association to bookshop.authors. Notice, I've just saved that, by the way. Notice a number of things. The EDMX has changed. The DDL statements for the tables and the views in the SQL has changed. And also the output from the CAP server has changed. That error has gone away because we've now got back again that foreign key field that CAP has created for us because it's managing the association for us because we're using a managed association. Right. What's different though between, if I'd have copy pasted from here over to here, now we're sort of outside the realm of this context here, which was inside or within the context where we've said the namespace for all the things following this, or all the things in this file, is bookshop. So I didn't have to specify. I think the we've got a reference. It wasn't there. Bookshop books. Where is it? God, I wrote lots. There we go. No. Let's go to the top. Ooh. Where's the thing? association to there. Okay, there. That's what we had in the DB schema. Notice no namespace prefix. We're not saying association to bookshop books because we don't need to. But here, we do need to. Okay? Because it's like, you know, pointing like that. Does that make sense? Okay. So all we've done is lifted that relationship, which is a one-to-one managed association, and put it slightly higher up and in a place that belongs to us. You know, that extend.cds is a new light touch CDS file that we've introduced without making changes to the original stuff that we've inherited, right? That we've got from somewhere. You know, schema.cds. And we're using the extend keyword. Is keyword the right word to use? The extend statement, the extend keyword? I don't know. To do that. Nice and delicate. Okay, so, and the error has gone away because, of course, author ID is back in there. Where are we now? Where are we now? No change, no change, no change. Ah, there we go, yes. So if we have done it the other way around, right? Oh yeah, so Lewis, brilliant observation, excellent. Let's look at that in a minute. If I had done that the other way around and created extend.cds first without removing this one first, what do we get? We get an error, right? Errors are our friend. What do we get? It says duplicate definition of element author, right? Yeah, I've defined author here as a property, as an element of this entity. And I'm also adding another property, an element, to that same entity over here as well, right? If I said, for example, if I, replace the last letter with X or, prefix it with X author, save, you wouldn't get that because it's two separate names, right? So anyway, let's save that, get over to here, undo that, and we're back. Now, Lewis said, now I can see referential constraint ID and author ID. Cool, brilliant, great observation. So, we had that before, of course, but let's just stare at it for a second. Navigate, so we've got this entity container, and in the entity container, we've got the entity set books, and we've got the entity set authors, which is quite boring because there's nothing inside the entity set as a definition. But in entity set books, we have a navigation property binding where the path is author. Remember when we did that thing here, books there, expand equals author. Am I running the thing? Books, Z there, right? That thing there is that thing there, effectively, right? And it goes to the author's entity set. Authors there, right? But Lewis is also pointing out within the authors, right? There's no notion of any navigation at all from authors to anywhere, as we know. However, in the books entity type, as in the definition of the books thing, not only do we have the ID property and the title property, but we also now have the navigation property back in again, as well as the property author ID, which is the property exposing this generated foreign key field that was put in there for us by CAP for the navigator managed association. But we get, as Lewis rightly points out, the most important, the most exciting part, which is the referential constraint. In this navigation from books to authors through the navigation property author, that is constrained by the value of author ID here in books entity has to be the same value as the property in the reference in the target books in the author of ID. So basically the value of author ID here has to be the same value as this ID here in the authors, because obviously, right? So there we go. Now, get rid of that. that's it. Why don't we stop there? Because it's 8:59. Oh my goodness me. So, Jodel says, are you giving out a fictional scenario here where main.cds is managed by SAP and extend.cds is managed by customer? Yes, I mean, effectively, yeah, I didn't want to say it as explicitly as that, but that, yeah, this is, I think it's just generally good practice as well to tread lightly, right? But absolutely, Jodel, that is spot on. And in, oh, there we go. Yeah, I added it actually. We do a code jam called Service Integration with SAP Cloud with CAP. We talk about that more there as well, right? Jodel says, from what I understand, extend CDS mainly for customers wanting to extend standard. Yeah, I mean, I did think, have I chosen an overloaded word here for the name of the file, extend.cds? But no, it could be banana, it could be dj.cds, it could be jodel.cds. So it doesn't matter what the name of the file is, but that to me was the most logical thing. You know, my small brain couldn't think of anything else. And Visa says, quite rightly, and I agree, the extend keyword is a very nice approach. We'll see in the next episode of this that not only will we be extending entities, but we'll also be extending the service itself. We can extend the service. Anyway, that's it. We've done an hour. Part 3 not next week, because I'm giving a code jam near Milan in Brescia. So when I come back, so I think it's the week after next. So thank you so much for joining. Let me know if that was helpful, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks' time. Bye.